Well, first up, Deputy Finance Minister Dr. John Kumah has clarified the government is yet to reach a decision on its debt operations announced in the 2023 budget reading. According to him, an initial attempt to explain what the government's debt exchange program was has been misconstrued as the government's position on the matter. Mr. Kumah, in an earlier interview, had indicated some local bondholders could lose about 30% of their investments in a possible suspension of interest payments for years. Take a listen.
Yeah, the 30% discretionary expenditure for 2022 was 30 billion.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that's the question we are asking now. So all the additional ones you've just announced, how much will that save us?
Okay, so I don't have the figures with me right now because if you quantify the specifics, because there are different budget lines. If you the fuel, for instance, last year we were talking about 15 million cedis savings on fuel alone that were given for people's allowances. If you are talking about accommodation, which is given to civil servants and political appointees, that will save us about 20 million. And several others. So by the time you put all together, you'll be saving about 200 million Ghana cedis from some of these interventions.
On PM Express Business Edition, Dr. Kumah explained before the government would roll out the program, an agreement would first have to be reached with both domestic and international investors to discuss the terms of the operation.
Explaining what the debt exchange program was all about. It was not speaking in specific to what is going to be done. So I just want to put that clarity out that no decisions have been made. Government is committed to an orderly and amicable process to engage all the parties. You can't announce any percentage when you have not even engaged the parties. But in order to let people understand what the debt exchange program was about, we went into examples, and that is creating a different impression now.
Interesting. So as we speak right now, no agreement has been reached. The government hasn't put anything on the table in terms of how those debts restructuring could be done.
Yes.
That could result in some haircuts and all the rest.
At all. No conclusions, no agreements. But government has announced the program that it will launch it very soon. So that is what we are waiting for.
Interesting.
I just want to take opportunity to clarify.
So for those who were worried that I had some bump papers with the banks, I'm going to get some haircuts and all the rest, that is still early days yet? Something's going to happen? Because I remember people said that we are not going to the fund for a program, and there was a program. I mean, there are some people who, anytime government speaks, they still want to hold that with a pinch of salt. Now you're clarifying to us that there hasn't been any conclusion on this. Can I hold you by your word, Honorable?
In fact, that is the situation, and government is going to launch it. The government only announced the program called the Debt Exchange Program. And let's stick to what the budget has announced. In the right time, the ministry and all the stakeholders, and even with the fund, do the announcement on how it is going to go. Of course, you should remember that we have domestic and external partners that we have to fully engage. It is the outcome of that engagement that will result in specifics. We are not there yet.
All right, financial analyst Christian Techijan joins us to dig into this. Thanks very much for your time this afternoon. What do you make of this? Government says we're only proposing this, it hasn't been finalized.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Daryl. As soon as the government actually announced turning to IMF somewhere around July for a bailout, the speculation had already begun, and we had hints when the African markets actually revealed somewhere around September that there has to be some sort of debt sustainability analysis that needs to be made by the IMF. And I mean, as far as these repayments are concerned, you have to be sustainable. And government is making us understand these are only proposals as it is contained in the budget. But actually, if you ask me, I would say, I mean, this has been contained in the documents to the IMF in analyzing our debt sustainability. So technically, they are proposals, but in reality, I mean, they have to be approved for us to have a way forward as far as our negotiation with the IMF is concerned. And we need to be able to make any form of progress with the fund managers in order to come to a conclusion. So though there are proposals, they are very expedient that they are actually approved before we'll be able to move on.
But there's already panic as the SEC has started carrying out the mark-to-market valuation. And this also creates some more uncertainties and some more panic, don't you think?
Yes, definitely there will be, and we can anticipate it's actually going to even heighten, not just with the Securities and Exchange Commission, but across the financial landscape. Some of these financial institutions have got contracts with their customers, and depending on what the stipulations in that contract were, yes, some have already started carrying out the mark-to-market valuation. And indeed, the fund managers do not actually promise a fixed income on your investments. It's basically about what the market gives them, which could be positive or negative. But it's just unfortunate that in this regard, it's a negative outlook, so they have to bear the consequences. But what I can say is that government itself has not finalized on anything, as the Deputy Minister actually had put across for our communication. And for us to communicate to any financial institution, once they are done with all of these roadmaps, the thematic areas that these things are going to affect, yes, they are going to give us some form of communication, and then everyone will be able to run with it.
And right now, people are not only having to be concerned about losing interest, but possibly losing a bit of their principal. Based on the experiences of other countries, what should we expect?
Government has actually come out with the modalities where they will be able to engage some analysts, some people. That's a 5-member committee that's already been inaugurated. And no roadmap or working document is out yet. But like I did indicate earlier, that is how fund management is all about. There is no fixed income that is promised. And depending on the returns on the market, which gives us an outlook. But unfortunately now, it means people will have to lose their principal. So that is what it is.
And the government talks about engaging the investors. I'm just wondering, at this stage, how much of a say do investors have really about the outcome of the debt restructuring?
Yes, definitely there will be some consultations that is going to be made. Government has already inaugurated that 5-member consultative committee that is on the local front. And it is going to actually lead the discussion with players within the financial service space. And this is to provide the industry inputs as far as the government is concerned. And proper communication will be made to the Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Ghana. And on the international platform, I'm sure negotiations have already comments on certain proposals, which I believe at the end of the day there will be consensus that is reached. We need to build consensus around these deliverables, but let me say that so far as government hasn't come out with any working documents, any thematic area, any percentages, or has given us any roadmap, we can only make speculations. But let's wait till the government paper is actually out, then we'll be able to integrate the issue properly.
Right, but I see right now a trust issue right now, because the president some months ago said there was not going to be haircuts, and now we are potentially faced with that. So how can we trust what the government says right now?
Yes, I think that the government was also explicit on what it wanted to do. It was put out that those that it will affect were the bonds. There is a bit of difference between the treasury bills and the bonds. The 91 day, the 182 day, the 3, that is a 1 year, those are classified under the treasury bills. So those ones, he was explicit that it is not going to affect it. But he didn't make, I don't remember the president talking about bonds. And all this while, it's been in our minds that it's the bonds that is going to be affected. So I think we just have to keep our calm. Our financial sector or that landscape has actually gone through a lot. I mean, the cleanup that was done in 2017, we've come a very long way. So I think the speculations should be minimized, and then the gains that we've been able to make this 5-6 years, it needs to be sustained. My
final question is about the vulnerable in society and how they can be protected in this case, especially for pensioners who, I think at this point, they probably might lose a bit of their savings.
Yeah, I'm sure some of these fund managers have got diversified portfolios, and the bonds we understand are what is going to be affected. Yes, they are vulnerable, but surely they will be protected, since I can assume that all their eggs are not in the bond market or in the bond basket. So the gains from the other sectors, I believe, should be able to compensate. So in the long run, yes, plus or minus, yeah, they should be fine.
All right. Thank you so much, Christian Tichi-Jan, a financial analyst, for your perspective on this issue. I want to bring in Senior Finance Lecturer at the University of Cape Coast, Daryl Kwawu. We are going to be talking about the other aspects of the budget, but let's pick your reactions also to this issue about debt restructuring. Government saying, well, we've not really settled on anything yet, just to calm the nerves of investors right now.
Okay. Thank you, Daryl. Yes, as the budget stated, government is trying to do a debt exchange. That's a form of debt restructuring. And so the best we could have had from the minister in charge, the deputy minister in charge of finance, was for him to keep quiet. Going ahead and saying that some people are going to have a haircut of 30% on the principal and the interest. No interest will be paid in 2023, 5% in the next year, and then 10% the year after. And investors will have their full return in 2026 was very much speculative on his part. He shouldn't have said that. And so it's good that he came out to talk about this particular issue, that it was explanation that he was giving. Of course, he's part of the negotiation team. And so anything that came out from his mouth, we would assume that these are things that are on the table and they are discussing it, and the market will actually take it very serious.
Yeah, just to indicate, the Finance Ministry also releasing a statement to the effect that they have not made any decision on a debt exchange as it is. Well, your thoughts generally on the budget presented yesterday, especially on aspects to do with expenditure cuts and revenue measures?
Yeah, in terms of revenue, there is a need for us to raise domestic revenue to shore up our budget deficits that we have. And in doing so, government had increased the VAT rate from by 2.5%. They reduced the e-levy charges from 1.5% to 1% and scrap the threshold values that are there. So, which means that anything that you send now on Momo, you are going to pay 1% amount on it. And then the government has also scrapped the benchmark, the kind of this thing that we have with the tax regime for multinational companies. That has also been taken off. And so that means that more revenue will be raked into the consolidated fund. But Daryl, what the VAT increase means is that the final consumer is the one that is going to pay. And if the final consumer is the one that is going to pay the VAT, it means that the prices of commodities on the market will go up, and the fight against inflation would not be achieved, because the fuel that we buy, we also have a VAT inside. That means that the VAT that is inside the fuel that we buy would also make the cost of fuel also goes up, and then that goes to affect.
It appears Daryl Kwawu is frozen there. We will try and re-establish connection with him, just getting his views on the budget that was read yesterday by the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. Of course, he announced expenditure cuts, also measures to generate some more revenue, including the 2.5% increase in the VAT. So hopefully when we get Daryl Kwawu, we'll speak to him about that. And another story we are following for you this afternoon, the Vice President announcing that the government was working on a policy to buy oil with gold. And so We are going to try and re-establish connection with Daryl Kwawu. When he joins us again, we'll continue with that discussion. But let's turn to another issue that we are following closely with, for you. Members of Kwapa Cocoa Cooperative Farmers and Marketing Union have vowed to resist what they term as illegal removal of their president. The union president, Fatima Ali, has been asked to step aside as acting managing director of Kwapa Cocoa Limited following allegations of financial malfeasance. But the farmers insist it's unconstitutional for any employee of the company to take decisions on behalf of farmers who own the Fair Trade Certified organization. Here's more in this report.
The Kwapa Cocoa Cooperative Farmers and Marketing Union and the Kwapa Cocoa Limited have been entangled in power play since last month. Some national executives and district managers from some societies of Kwapa Cocoa passed a resolution in October asking acting managing director Fatima Ali to step aside. This was to allow investigations into alleged financial malfeasance. Madam Fatima denies the allegations and has since filed a suit challenging her suspension she describes as illegal. Members of the Farmers Union at a press conference in Kumasi on Thursday described as illegal attempts by some employees of the Kwapa Cocoa Limited to meddle in managerial issues of the company. They have vowed to face off with persons they accuse of fighting for their parochial interest.
And did you Nipaka Krabi per se, almost Fakuono, now almost Sam, and I'm to me.
Our vice president is behind all these things, and it's not just only him, but there is about 4 or 5 presidents in certain societies who are with him doing this thing. They've been assisted by some managers who own the company. And the company has come to realization that those people have to pay the money that they own before they can work. And based on that, the money that they have stolen from the company is what they are using to overthrow the constitution that we have.
Meanwhile, the farmers lament the power play is affecting their upkeep, as dried cocoa beans meant to be bought by the Kwapa Cocoa Limited remain on the shelves. They want the IGP and the Chief Justice to intervene to restore sanity in the two organizations. From Kumasi for JoyNews, Oyemeteria.
Now, players within the engineering space have been charged to exude professionalism in their work to push for more investors. According to Executive Director of the Ghana Institution of Engineering, Engineer David Kwetianyante, this is necessary to support Ghana's energy transition agenda. Speaking to Joy Business at the 2022 Engineering Excellence Awards, he called for a concerted effort to fight for resilience in the face of climate change and the COVID pandemic.
The award is given to members for their outstanding contributions in promoting engineering excellence and innovations in Ghana. Engineer David Yante said the energy transition agenda will require substantial resources, hence the need for more investment.
Well, economic challenges, we haven't gone out there to talk to them about that yet, and we haven't had any communication on that yet, but generally everybody is in this situation. The system, you know, the worldwide issues of economic issues all around us. So definitely, I mean, once we are in this ecosystem, we will definitely have issues on the economic front as well. Well, there are a lot of projects going on, so we have engineers quite busy doing all these projects. You have a lot of engineering institutions coming up, so you have a lot of engineering education also going on. So we need to encourage our people to be professional and to practice the way that it has to be done the right way, and get their licenses, you know, get registered with the Engineering Council and go about their duties to help this country develop its infrastructure.
Chief Executive for the Volta River Authority, Engineer Emmanuel Inchidako, stated that alternative energy sources can and should be utilized to minimize greenhouse gas emissions.
Climate change is a global thing. It's not a question of whether something is being done right or something is being done wrong. It has a global effect. So it doesn't really matter what you do in your country. I think we all should work together as people of this world to deal with the issue of climate change. In our part of the world, climate change, there are a couple of things that we should really be looking out for. I mean, you see extremes in the weather situation these days. The climate science tells us that these extreme events are due to climate change. So the issue of emissions and all that, especially in the area of transportation, power generation and all that. And so climate change is reality. I mean, the recent, I did not attend it, but the recent conference, COP27, emphasize that, and I think there are some mitigation measures and some adaptation measures that we as a country we have laid out that we are going to follow. I think the Ministry of Energy is the one that is spearheading that particular effort. So if you take a utility like us, VNRA, I think that would be more specific.
Love FM's Emmanuel Kwesi Deborah was recognized at the award, winning the Engineering Evangelism Award. This year's awards was under the theme Engineering, Resilience in the Face of Climate Change and Pandemic.
And congratulations there to Kwesi Deborah for winning that award. While you're watching The Marketplace, I want to take you back to our conversation on the budget. Sarah Mkao joins us with some more perspective. And so we're talking about expenditure cuts and revenue measures announced in the budget. But I want to bring this up. While the budget was being read, news came up that the Vice President, Dr. Wamia, had announced the government was going to work on a new policy to buy oil products with gold rather than US dollar reserves. Now, the move, we understand, is meant to tackle dwindling foreign currency reserves coupled with the demand for dollars by oil importers, which is weakening the local currency and increasing the cost of living. And so what do you think about this? Is it feasible?
Okay, so to come to that, it means that, as we are saying, the revenue measures are okay, but the rate we have fixed for the VAT is going to make things more difficult. The expenditure cut, we do not know the quantum of money that will be saved in terms of the fuel cuts, the travels, the meetings, and the rest. We do not know. It would have been very good if government downsized its size in terms of the ministries, the agencies that we have over time. Now, in terms of buying fuel using our gold reserve or the gold that we have in our country, that is an excellent move. That is a move that will reduce the pressure on the dollar, and then that would also save us some amount of money. But the question we want to ask is, what is our medium of exchange as a country? The medium of exchange we have as a country is money, and is the Ghana cedi. So if we are using gold, which is not a medium of exchange, it's just a store of value that we have. If we are using it, are we exchanging or we are buying over a period of time? That will be determined by government and then the parties that exchange rate that we have. And that will not be so much because the fuel that we import in our country is not the only in the exchange rates that we have. We have other factors that affect the exchange rate. So the fuel component will just be good. And once we get it, it means that fuel prices in our country will be lower. And once the fuel prices are lower, it will translate into the price of transportation and then the price of commodities that are affected by fuel price to also go down.
Yeah, but looking at the budget in itself, do you get the sense that the policy measures introduced, for instance, cutting down on imports, boosting local manufacturing, do you think that they are enough really to tackle the issues to do with the local currency weakening and issues to do with inflation?
Daryl, in budgeting, there is something that is very crucial that we have to look at. Those are the people who are going to implement the budget, those who are going to be key players in the budget, their involvement in the budget preparation. As we speak, before the reading of the budget, a lot of the majority MPs said they do not know what was in the budget because they did not have any pre-budget briefing. These are members of parliament. If they do not know, we will also assume that the ordinary player in the market will not know about this. These are laudable ideas, no two ways about it. But trying to achieve it in next year, to me, is impossible to achieve. We might try to do something, but the rice farmers, the maize farmers, and the rest, what type of meeting have we had with them?
Okay.
How are we going to give these monies to them?
Okay.
How do we recoup these monies over time from these individuals? If we did not plan very well on some of these things,
here.
it go a long way to affect the country and the policy we want to implement over time. Rushing to do
our time is up. Thank you so much, Daryl Kwawu. I appreciate it. We'll talk some more extensively next week on some of these issues. Plenty more to chew on. My name is Daryl Kwawu. Thanks for watching The Marketplace. We'll be back same time next week.